If you're one of those 60 Minutes viewers who's fed up with football games running into our time every other Sunday and now are looking forward with dread to a week of World Series baseball games and are saying to yourself, why do I have to watch another sports story? Hold on. My Way is a 60 Minutes type sports story about a man who kicks up such a fuss fighting with his ball players, firing his managers, and taking on the sports writers that just to spend some time with New York Yankee owner George Steinbrenner is an experience. Do these guys like you, the ball players?
I don't. I don't really care. Isn't that funny? I don't really care, Ed, whether they like me. I'd like them to respect me, and sometimes that doesn't happen. What I try to do is instill a sense of discipline in my players, a mental toughness and a discipline. I don't want players going out there and being treated like heroes if they don't act like heroes.
George Steinbrenner has been a self-styled General Patton of baseball, a man who over the years has demanded perfection from his players.
When you put the pinstripes on, you're not just putting a baseball uniform on. You're wearing tradition and you're wearing pride. And you're going to wear it the right way.
These fellas have it pretty good. They don't have to do a lot of thinking during their baseball career because we have the bus there at this hotel. They're pre-checked in. They get on the bus. They go to the ballpark. They play their game. The bus is waiting. They come back. I try to tell them that you've got to get prepared for life because there's going to come a day soon when that doesn't happen.
That kind of philosophy seems to have worked in the past. In the 14 years Steinbrenner has owned the team, the Yankees have won 5 divisional championships, 4 pennants, and 2 World Series, with the best one-loss record in baseball. But after 13 managerial changes, firings, trades, and losing seasons, many of the fans have had it.
It's just not fun anymore because we understand now that the team can't perform at 100% when the guy is constantly badgering them, making them feel guilty because they make $1 million a season. It's ridiculous.
By mid-season, the headlines cried,
"Butt out."
Right.
And that's what I did. August 8th, I butted out. Somebody put it in the players' bulletin board, Ed. Put 2 copies of it up there. I think I know who it was, but those guys told me no, and I'll take their word. So I said on August 8th, okay, you guys want me to butt out? You put it in your team bulletin board? I'm out. And I haven't said a word about the team since. And we were in first place when I butted out.
And now?
Now we're 8 games out in 4th place.
What does that say?
Well, I don't know what it says, but I'll tell you, if we finish there, the discipline goes back in next year.
What will be the difference?
I think it'll be plenty.
What do the people in the press box have to say? Bill Madden of the New York Daily News.
The word he keeps using is discipline. Discipline, discipline. I think that's his favorite word. And I think his way of instilling discipline is to be unbelievably tough on people.
New York Times columnist Dave Anderson.
He's the ultimate bully as far as I'm concerned.
He is.
In everything he does, with his players, his manager, the people in the ballpark, even with the writers. You know, he tries to hold his thumb on everybody.
I'm a tough boss, I admit that. But I want, you know, it's imperative to me that my players understand that some guy that's buying 4 tickets out there and bringing his kids to a game, that he wants those kids to look up to those players. And they better act like heroes. My players wear coats and ties on the road. When we get on that airplane, if you don't have a coat and tie, you don't go.
But what bothers the fans most is not the discipline of their heroes, but the public criticism. New York Times reporter Murray Chass.
You have to wonder what drives a man to pick out a whipping boy each year and have that person be the star of the team. Reggie Jackson for several years, when Jackson left Dave Winfield, and now almost Mattingly.
Don Mattingly, fast becoming a Yankee legend like Ruth, Garrett, Mantle, and DiMaggio. 330 hitter, 1985's most valuable player. He set a record for consecutive home runs. Yet even Mattingly's felt the boss's criticism.
I don't feel like a person that I need discipline. I feel like I'm a professional player, and I come out prepared to play. I come every day prepared to play. I don't feel like I need anyone to discipline me, to tell me, you know, discipline makes me a better player. I don't believe it. Discipline my work habits make me a better player. Discipline in other ways, reprimands, I don't think make me a better player.
I read Steinbrenner a letter from a disillusioned Yankee fan. Humiliating and demeaning the team and manager has only succeeded in upsetting everyone, including the fans. It has not resulted in games won, division championships, or World Series winners.
It hasn't, huh? It hasn't meant championships and winning teams. We've won more games than anybody else in baseball, and we've won more championships in the last decade than anybody else in baseball. So right there, his argument's wrong. But I agree with him that you never seek to demean anybody, or hopefully you don't. Sometimes to get your point across, that's the way it's placed.
But the sports writers point out the Yankees haven't won anything in the last 6 years.
As George always likes to say, well, what have you done lately? Well, George hasn't done much lately.
And what about the Yankees' winning tradition?
Unfortunately, George's idea of Yankee tradition seems to be that he'll take a guy like Billy Martin, fire him 4 times, and then erect a plaque in his honor in center field.
Retire his number.
Does it bother Steinbrenner that some writers criticize him that way?
It's when it becomes vicious without hearing both sides of the story, or by somebody who maybe comes out to this ballpark 5, 10 times a year and only on a big game, who really doesn't have any idea what's going on, who never put a jockstrap on himself. So, you know, that's when I get upset.
You get bothered when somebody says, you know, you're a real jerk. I mean, that can't be easy to take.
You put yourself above it. You just try to rise above that.
I read somewhere that you had fired a secretary and then paid her kid's way through college.
Well, that's true. What she didn't do was she didn't make my reservation on the airplane. I got the desk and the plane was sold out. And I was so mad I called her. I told her to leave. I said, get out of here. And I felt so bad about it later that night. I called up my people and I said, get a hold. How old is her son? And he said, well, he goes to college next year. I said, okay, where's he going? And he told me, and I said, okay, pay for it. And she showed up the next day. She said, you didn't have to do that. I said, why? She says, you're not going to fire me anyway. I said, what do you mean? I can fire you. I'm the boss. She says, no, you're not. And she just walked to her desk and sat down.
And
I couldn't get rid of her. She's still with me. That was 16 years ago, 15 years ago.
It turns out that many people that Steinbrenner's fired have eventually returned.
If these guys didn't have a tiny bit of respect for you, the Cerrones, the Tommy Johns, and the Bucky Dents, how come they came back? They could have gone other places. Clyde King could go with any team in baseball. So could Bob Lemon. But they come back.
Veteran Yankee catcher Rick Cerrone had been traded by the Yankees 3 years ago. Last year, when he became a free agent, it looked like his career was over. But Steinbrenner decided to invite him back to the Yankees.
He went out of here saying what a lousy guy I was, and I was this and I was that. He called me last year when nobody would listen to him. He says, I didn't think you'd call me back. I said, why? He says, because of the things I said. I said, hey, every game you played for me when you were here, you gave me 110%. I saw you black and blue sometimes go out there. I said, I'll always talk to you. I said, what can I do for you? He says, I don't suppose you'd be willing to take a chance with me. You'd have to give up a second-round draft choice. I said, get your butt down to Fort Lauderdale and get your uniform.
I feel George, one-on-one, is a fine individual. I think he wants to win. It's simple. The bottom line is he has to win.
Yankee catcher Rick Cerrone.
You know the consequences, though, if you don't win the ball games.
What are the consequences?
Well, they could be for some guys being sent to the minor leagues if they mess up a ball game. It could be getting traded. Could be getting released. You have to win here.
Are you a graceful loser?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm like a Yankee fan. My foot has gone through a number of television sets in my time. I bleed like those guys out there do, the fans. I mean, they hate to see you lose, and I hate to lose.
You take it personally?
Yes. Yes, I
mean,
do.
what does it say about George Steinbrenner when the Yankees lose?
It says he's one of the worst losers in the world. You show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. And I got to be one of the worst.
We sat with Steinbrenner in his box at Yankee Stadium and saw his star, Don Mattingly, strike out.
We've been doing that a lot lately. See? It's not the Mattingly of old. Now, see the booing? Last year, that never would have happened. Don Mattingly was my Jack Armstrong All-American boy from the Middle West, Indiana. But suddenly, he now is in that thing of a $1.9 million ball player. And all I was telling him was, get yourself prepared, get mentally tough. Because before, you were every day's hero, because when you went out there, even if you popped up, nobody said anything in other towns, you know. But this year, when you go out there and strike out and pop up in a situation, you are now the $1 million man, the multi-million-dollar man, and it's a different ball game.
Yeah, I was Jack Armstrong when I was making $130,000 and winning a batting title. But once my numbers stayed the same and the salary went up, I've changed for some reason there. I don't feel like I have.
Obviously, he hasn't. An hour after we talked to Mattingly, he set another record.
Here it goes. Long drive and a grand slam. Upper deck for Mattingly.
Most grand slams in a single season. The fans love it. Maybe Steinbrenner's worried his price might go up.
You're dealing with agents. You're not just dealing with players today. You're dealing with guys that come to the ballpark with their ball, their glove, and their briefcase. And you can't use the same business principles that maybe an owner used in the old days when they didn't have such things as agents and million-dollar salaries. It's a different game. It's a tough game today.
And Steinbrenner sees himself as a tough guy.
Now, you think because of what happened, there should be a payback?
I am definitely for that. But they're trying to hurt my player. I don't want to initiate it. But he could have circumvented that. He didn't have to hit him as hard as he did. He knocked him right in his can. Somewhere I want to get back.
When you look at this year, I mean, can you take some of the blame? I mean, can you say, I made some mistakes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Certainly do. When I make them, I tell them. I've told the world I made a mistake letting Reggie Jackson get away.
But your head doesn't roll.
One of the toughest things to do, well, that, you know, maybe down the line when I was younger, it would have rolled if I'd made mistakes like that. But that's why you work hard to get to the point where you're able maybe to own a team.
Lou Piniella, good manager?
Lou has done a good job this year. I will take the blame for not requiring Lou to go to the minor leagues. I should have said, Lou, I don't care what you say. You're going down and you're going to pay your dues down in the minors before you come to the major leagues. Lou knows when he came here how I am on the bottom line and what was expected.
Yankee manager Lou Piniella, who has had his differences with Steinbrenner, declined to talk to us about his boss. And Dave Winfield, who has been publicly chastised by Steinbrenner, also refused to say anything. In fact, many of the Yankees we wanted to interview were reluctant to say anything on camera. One Yankee star who refused to be identified did tell us that there was nothing to be gained by talking about the boss, that if he did go public, he'd be forced to lie. The sense is that many players just don't want to risk being released, traded, or sent to the minors. And what about being sent back to the minors?
It's not punishment.
No. No, it's a way of telling a player, hey, you're not playing up to your capabilities, and your skills need polishing. And you're not going to polish them here where it may cost us the American League Championship. You're going to Columbus and get them polished up.
What does it do? What does it do for a guy's confidence?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them. But I tell you one thing it will do. It'll build a mental toughness in them. And that's what I want in my players.
Who's made you the way you are? Who's the biggest influence on you?
I guess you'd have to say my father. I never got an allowance when I was a kid. You know, I raised chickens. He gave me chickens, made me pay him for the chickens, and I'd go out and sell the eggs because he wanted to teach me what business was all about. And then I sold that company to my sisters for 10 times what it was worth. That's how I learned to do business. They still hate me for it.
You're going to sell the Yankees?
No, I don't think so. It's kind of like owning the Mona Lisa, really. There's only one. There's only one New York Yankees.